Hello and welcome to today's product update webinar for Just Planet. Today we're going to talk about the first half of a split release, which mainly focuses on event messaging. But first, here are some preliminary information. This is a GoToWebinar. All attendees are automatically muted to prohibit any background noise coming through and to have as smooth a sound quality as possible. And if you do have a question, please do not hesitate to ask any of those via the GoToWebinar chat box. As always, my name is Jan Vierguts. I am the development lead of Just Planet. And before we talk about the main meat of today's update, let's take a quick look at what we did in addition to that. The small additions that we did with this release are basically just enhancements to already existing functionalities. For example, if you remember a while ago, we added a quick option to finish tasks in your plan for your planners. They can right-click any task and select Finish as planned and immediately have that go through. And as my slip of the tongue suggests, we also now added a Start as planned with the same functionality in mind for your planners to quickly get the shop floor feedback back in that might have been missing or that they might just found out has been taken place. So quick click here, Start as planned, screen turns gray as always, and you immediately have the feedback in, and we do see we have one thing to approve, as this is the same functionality as you would see if you go into the execute mode, select the task, and click Start as planned here with confirming with the set shop floor data. Now, while we're in the execute mode, also a quick addition that we did here, we heard some feedback that a couple of you guys have their operators use the main client as the tool they're using to set the shop floor details and found that they were not able to view the hyperlinks we provided in the last update. This has now been, of course, fixed, and even if your operator is now working in the main client, with a simple right click on the corresponding thing that you want the hyperlink to see, you can now also access those. If your operators are more working in the operator client, we also did a small update there. For that, let's quickly switch over. And let's imagine your operators do manage multiple machines on the shop floor and have them run in parallel. That means that you won't necessarily open the set data screen for one thing, start it, work on it, finish it, and set the data then. But you might have the case that you need to start something, go back to the list, select the next thing, start that, go back to the list, and that always was more clicks than necessary. And for those, we now added a secondary button to the operator client. As you can see down here, we now have a set data and return to list button. So what this does, same functionality as the set data button. We click here, information goes through, but we are already back on the list, ready to select the next task, ready to continue our work here. So that's it for the small enhancements that we did here. Now I want to talk a bit about the large thing, the meat of this release. And that release is a new endpoint for our API called JPI Events. And as you can see, I'm currently on the API documentation page. And we can see here everything that we had before. And now we have the JPI Events endpoint. Now, what can you get from this endpoint? What you can get from this endpoint are things that happen in your plan for tasks and jobs. For example, if your job now, after some planning, is not able to hold its due date, we've thrown an event for that you can then get and react to as you would like. For example, sending an email to your management team or even the customer this job belongs to. For a quick overview about what events we actually track, let's take a quick look here. On your screen now, you see a list of the events that we are currently tracking. And as you can see right here, we now have, we track the due date exceeded. We also track if the buffer time changes. So if you get into a real close call to exceed the due date, you might also want to be informed. Or you might even want to be up to date if any of the start or end dates change. That is, of course, also tracked on both levels for jobs and tasks. What you can also do is, oh, what you can do is, if we take a look at the API again, is if you are an enterprise or full subscriber to Just Planet, connect to this endpoint free of charge and get the events I just showed. You can get those events for 7 days, meaning that after 7 days we remove them from our database, but you do have 7 days to react to any event that is thrown. And how to get those events? You can simply say with your API key, and quick reminder, your API key is as always in the main client under your user management page. You take your API key from settings, user management, and down here. If you do not have an API key already, you can generate a new one. And if you are using the API documentation to test this, this is how you can do it. Try it out and say, okay, just for ease of use, I'm going to take this state and say, okay, what happened since yesterday in my plan? And say execute. And what this now does is get all the events that happened since yesterday. As you can see, there were a couple of events happening since yesterday, and I could now go through everything here and realize what has changed. If I only want to see a specific event, that is also possible with a secondary endpoint. So if we take a look here, you can also say, okay, still going with yesterday, but now I only want to know the end date changed events for jobs and tasks. And if I hit execute here, waiting for a couple of seconds, we immediately get just this event type, letting me know which end dates have changed since yesterday. Again, this functionality is completely free of charge for our full and enterprise subscribers. If you only subscribe to JPI scheduling or any of the previous subscriptions that we sold and want access to this, just let us know. There will be a way for you to get this. Now, I realize that this is basically only valuable for those of you that have an IT team or have access to people with knowledge about how to get the data and do something with this. And this is why this is only the first half of this release. We built the functionality to track the events. We have them ready for you to use now if you are able and willing. But with next month's release, what we're going to do is make this easy to use for every single one of you with a companion app that we're going to release that will allow you to easily set up when to get notified by what event and who you want to notify about specific rules changes. But more on that, as I said, with the next release. And that's basically it for today. I thank you very much for your kind attention. If you do have any kind of feedback, just let us know either at support@justplanet.com or directly to me with jan.vierguts@justplanet.com. And I wish you all a very nice day and talk to you soon. Goodbye.